There is something strange about the human brain. It can imagine a future that does not exist, feel emotions about something that has never happened, rehearse conversations that may never take place, turn a tiny thought into a decision that changes the direction of an entire life. We often talk about the brain as if it were simply an organ, sitting inside our skull. It is much more interesting than that. Your brain is constantly making predictions, filtering information, learning patterns, assigning meaning, and deciding where your attention should go. And most of this happens without your conscious attention. That is why changing your life is rarely as simply as saying I want something. You can consciously want success, while another part of you, learned behavior, keeps pulling you toward what is familiar. You can want confidence while your brain has learned to interpret uncertainty as danger. You can want to start a business while your habits are perfectly designed around avoiding rejection. You can want to become healthier while your environment, routines, emotion, and automatic responses keep making the old behavior easier. This is where understanding psychology becomes powerful, not because there is a secret bottom hidden inside your subconscious mind that magically creates wherever you visualize. There isn't. The real power is more fascinating. You can learn how your mind works and then deliberately build a life that works with it. Instead of constantly fighting it, think about how much of your day happens automatically. You don't consciously calculate every movement when you walk. You don't analyze every word before speaking your native language. You don't wake up every morning and consciously decide how to react to every familiar situation. Your brain has learned shortcuts, and those shortcuts are incredibly useful. Imagine having to consciously remember how to tie your shoes, recognize every familiar face, decide how to brush your teeth, or figure out how to navigate your home every morning. You would be exhausted before breakfast. Automatic processing is one of the brain's greatest advantages, but there is a catch. Your brain doesn't automatically learn only what is good for you. It learns what you repeatedly practice. This distinction changes everything. If you repeatedly avoid difficult conversation, avoidance becomes easier. If you repeatedly criticize yourself after making mistakes, self-criticism becomes familiar. If you repeatedly procrastinate whenever a task feels uncomfortable, your brain learns that discomfort is a signal to escape, but the same mechanisms work in the opposite direction. Practice speaking up, and speaking up becomes less foreign. Practice beginning before you feel ready, and uncertainty becomes more tolerable. Practice returning to a difficult task after failure, and failure becomes information instead of an emergency. This is one of the most important ideas in the psychology of achievement. You don't become a different person by thinking about being different. You become different through repeated experiences that teach your brain what is normal. This is why goals alone are disappointing. A goal says, I want to run a marathon. Your brain asks, what do we do on Tuesday mornings when it is raining and we are tired? A goal says, I want to build a successful company. Your brain asks what happens when nobody responds to the email. A goal say I want to become confident. Your brain asks what do we do when someone criticizes us? The gap between ambitious and achievement is often filled with these ordinary moments, not the dramatic ones, the boring ones. The 5 minutes decision nobody sees. This is where the so-called subconscious becomes relevant, not as a mystical force, but as a huge collection of associations, habits, expectations, emotional responses, and automatic process operating outside conscious awareness. And you can influence those processes, but you don't do it by simply repeating a sentence in the mirror and waiting for your brain to surrender. You influence them through attention, repetition, environment, behavior, and experience. If you want to change a pattern, start by noticing it. When you do procrastinate, what emotions appears immediately beforehand. What story does your mind produce? What do you do next? What reward do you get from doing it? This last question is particularly important. Almost every persistent behavior gives us something. Procrastination may provide temporary relief. Perfectionism may provide the illusion of safety. Avoiding rejection protects us from immediate discomfort. Scrolling may provide stimulation when we feel bored or overwhelmed. Your brain is not necessarily sabotaging you. Sometimes it's trying to protect you, using an outdated strategy. That is a very different way of looking at yourself. Instead of saying, why am I so lazy? You can ask, what is this behavior doing for me? Instead of, why am I afraid? Ask, what does my brain believe I am protecting myself from? Instead of, why can't I stay disciplined? Ask, how have I designed my environment so the behavior I want is actually easier to repeat? These questions create space between you and your automatic reactions, and that space is where choice begins. There is another powerful psychological principle that it's easy to underestimate. Your brain pays attention to what you repeatedly tell. It is important. Attention is limited. You cannot notice everything around you. So your brain constantly filters. When something becomes important to you, you begin noticing related information everywhere. Learn a new word and suddenly hear it 3 times in a day. Start searching a particular car and suddenly notice that model on the streets. Become interested in a certain field and discover opportunity you previously walked past. The world did not necessarily change. Your attention changed. Success is about becoming capable of moving intelligently while negative emotions are present. That is a skill, and skills can be trained. So if you have a goal that feels enormous, don't only ask, how do I achieve it? Ask better question. What would someone who achieves this consistently do? What behavior would I need to repeat? What environment would make that behavior easier? What discomfort would I need to become comfortable with? What beliefs are helping me? Which ones are outdated? What would I do today if I didn't need to feel completely ready first? Then make the goal smaller. Not because the dream is small, because the brain learns through action. 1 page, 1 conversation, 1 application, 1 hour of focused work, 1 uncomfortable decision, 1 attempt after failure. You are giving your brain evidence. Evidence that you can act. Evidence that discomfort is survival. Evidence that mistakes are recoverable. Evidence that the future can be different from the past. And eventually something remarkable happens. The behavior that once required enormous effort start requiring less. Not because you discovered a secret of the universe, because you practiced. That is the part of success nobody finds particularly glamorous. The brain is extraordinary, but it is not a genie. It will not guarantee you every goal. You cannot think your way out of reality, control other people's decisions, or eliminate uncertainty from life. But you can influence what you pay attention to. You can shape your habit. You can redesign your environment. You can practice new responses. You can learn from failure. You can become more comfortable with discomfort. You can teach yourself through repeated experience that the person you want to become is not some imaginary character in the future. They are being built through what you do today. And maybe that is the most empowering truth of all. You don't need to wait until you feel like a different person to start living differently. Your brain will learn and do it again and again till what once felt impossible becomes familiar, till unfamiliar becomes normal, till normal becomes natural. And one day you may look back and realize that the biggest transformation wasn't that you suddenly became more powerful. It was that you finally learned how to use the power you had been carrying all along. Subscribe, your mind is about to get a lot more interesting.